Happy afternoon to everyone. Appreciate everybody stopping by and supporting the program and joining us for today's webinar, an informative Deltek training program. Today's program is being recorded, and I'll distribute the link and post it so that you can take advantage of it if you want to review it or distribute it among your folks. And of course, we'll keep it archived. Reminder about the purposes of our program. We, of course, at iCERT are interested in your growth and success, and that's why we're providing this service at no extra cost. If you happen to know other public safety providers that could benefit from iCERT membership, I hope you'll please invite them to investigate joining, because a stronger iCERT certainly helps everyone. I do want to also have a special shout out thanks to Jason Hannock, our Deltek representative today, for leading our discussion. Jason's going to review the lead spreadsheet, discuss key terms and searches, provide suggestions on how to maximize the benefits of this information. We do review key term suggestions that people provide with Jason regularly and update the search. He reminded me that if anybody ever encounters a bid or proposal through their own efforts and it didn't get captured in a search, let us know, because that's good information for us to go back and double check key terms and searches, and we'll make sure to make adjustments so that we capture things like that in the future. To help with background noise, you all have heard this before. Please mute your phone using *6. If you're on your computer, please mute your mic. Looks like everybody has. Everybody's getting so used to doing this now. Please type your questions using the team chat button feature, and we'll answer as many questions as we have time to do, certainly. And if you have any questions in the future, just send me an email at executivedirector@theindustrycouncil.org, and we'll of course get you a response. I also want to thank my friend Paul Moskowitz from Codan Communications for helping with this. He suffered through the birthing of this program, and Paul, I really appreciate your help with this. So with that, I will turn this over to Jason to take us through the program.
All right, thanks, Kim, and thanks everybody for joining today. And first and foremost, I wanted to reiterate what Kim said, that I've worked with a lot of associations over the years. And some of them invest in their members a lot more than others. So I think it's very telling that iCERT has taken the initiative to invest in this type of program, specifically to give more business opportunities to the members. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everybody see my screen all right? Should be the Excel file.
Actually, I do not see that.
Nor do.
Oh, I do.
Oh. Did it come up now?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay. So I'll remember that. It might be lagging behind. But essentially what you're receiving from iCERT each morning is a feed of new opportunities that GovWin is capturing over the last 24 hours. GovWin is a product of Deltek. Deltek is the parent company. GovWin is a product of that tracks all public sector spending from the federal level down to the state and local levels. We monitor thousands and thousands of websites on a daily basis to make sure that we're capturing new procurement opportunities, even into online newspapers, some hard copy newspapers. So really anywhere and everywhere that agencies are going to post new bid announcements and new procurement, we're monitoring those on a daily basis. I'm not sure if anybody that's listening to the call today has used GovWin before, or a similar service called Onvia. Onvia was the company that I started with GovWin, and Deltek purchased Onvia in Q4 of 2017. So we've been with Deltek roughly for about 2 years now, and they rolled the the OnVia system and data into the GovWin platform. So Deltek was always known as being very strong on the federal side, and OnVia was known as being very strong on the state and local side. So combining those two services kind of brought the best of both worlds. So working with Paul and Kim, we were able to identify some areas that we wanted to capture, so we weren't giving members just anything and everything that was coming through. We really wanted to focus on the public safety industries and kind of built the search based on that. So it's a fine line. We want to make sure that we're capturing everything, but not capturing so much that you start getting a bunch of noise filled into your system. And like Kim said, we do go over the search criteria on a regular basis. For the past month or two, it's been almost on a weekly basis. So if anybody has any suggestions or just wants to make sure, hey, are you capturing these types of opportunities? Examples are a great thing for me to use because I can look them up in our system and see how our company tags those. And I'll get into tags here in just a couple minutes. And as Kim said, if you ever find a project that you didn't see come through the email notifications, always feel free to forward that over to Kim. He can provide it to me, and I can look it up in our system and just make sure it's within the criteria that we've set. And if it's not, I can always add that, and then that will produce those results moving forward. So once we pull in new procurements, we go through a pretty extensive process to categorize, or what we call, we use tags. So I've been with Deltek and OnVia now for almost 10 years. And over that time, and even the time before I joined OnVia, that became part of GovWin and Deltek, we were monitoring procurement. And I'm sure, like many of you know, depending on which agency you're working with, they might call something very different than somebody else, but they essentially mean the same thing. So that's why we developed our tag system to try to get our clients to move away from being very keyword heavy on their searches, because keywords can definitely pull up relevant opportunities. But if you're not using the exact phrase or the exact keyword that an agency is using, those opportunities might slip through. So that's why we developed our tag system to really categorize these opportunities and deliver them to our clients so we can get as specific as possible without producing a bunch of noise. And essentially what we're doing is we're looking through the procurement title, the description, and any documents that are associated with the procurement. We're tossing out a lot of the boilerplate information that you would find on a lot of those bid documents, and just seeing what terms and keywords are coming up over and over and over again. And we put weights to those, and then that's how we decide on the primary tags. So once you get used to the file, the primary tags might be is probably going to be an option you want to start utilizing if you want to start filtering the opportunities. I think the file that came through today had about 100 projects on there. So if you want to take those 100 projects and filter them down to a smaller number, the primary tags are a good way to do those. And you can look through and see, like I said, I mean, we have numerous tags associated to make sure that we're capturing anything and everything related to public safety and what members are going to be most interested in. The primary tags are what is really driving the search results. Secondary tags just mean that we've seen some other keywords and phrases in there that have indicated the project might be about some other things outside of what the primary tags were. But didn't meet the criteria to be a primary tag. So those keywords and phrases didn't come up enough to classify it under the primary tag. So we will add some secondary tags. For your use case, I would really stick with the primary tags. Those are going to be the most relevant to filtering and what you're looking for. So I'm just going to go through the different columns and data types that are included on the file so everybody understands kind of what each column is calling out. So we went through the first two, the primary tags and the secondary tags. The published date is the date that we published it into the GovWin platform. So the file that you got this morning is the one that I'm using. You'll see a lot of these were published probably from midnight to about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when we do publishing. But it's also going to encompass some of the opportunities that we captured after we delivered our file yesterday. So essentially what you're getting each day is what we pulled in over the last 24 hours. And as far as our coverage of agencies and delivering bid opportunities to our platform, the vast majority get caught and delivered within 24 hours of the agency posting. Almost all the other ones are within 4 to 8 hours. So it's pretty timely as far as when the agency would post this on their website to when you would get it in your email notifications. The info type is just the type of solicitation that came through. The vast majority of these are going to be new bid opportunities.
Hey, let me ask a quick question. Aubrey asked one, and I thought while we were on the tag subject, I'd mention it. She asked, how many tags in total do you have? Is there a list of them, as a way to look through them to know which are most applicable to someone's particular business model or business interests?
Let me check with our ontology team. That's a team that works on our tags. I mean, we have probably thousands of tags included in there. I think what the best way to go about that would be, if you're concerned about is your specific product or service getting captured within these notifications, is to send Kim an email and just say, hey, here are the types of opportunities that I go through. Maybe here's some examples of projects that I've responded to in the past or that I'm most interested in, and we can check them that way. But I can check with my team as far as getting more of a list of the different tags that we can use or that are available that members can go through. But in the meantime, if you do have questions about your specific business and your specific area of interest, just shoot Kim a note and kind of explain the types of opportunities that you're looking for, and then I can double check in our system. And if that has not already been included in the current search criteria, I can add it as a new criteria so those opportunities get delivered moving forward.
Okay, and just so folks know, I am taking notes for follow-up, so you and I will follow up regarding any questions that need.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. The project number is the project number that the agency has put on the solicitation, and this might come in handy if you go on the agency's website and some of the website links that we'll talk about here in just a minute. If you are new to this file or kind of new to services like GovWin, where I would personally start would be the project name. We're not delivering like thousands and thousands of leads on a daily basis. So the project name is normally a short description or a short blurb of what the project is going to entail or what the agency is looking to purchase. And so if you're going down the project names, of course, you can get more information about that specific solicitation. But kind of how I would use this file at the beginning is looking through a project name, and let's say I was interested in this one and one of the ones down here, is to quickly toggle back to the primary tags and see how those opportunities were tagged. I guarantee after doing this for a couple of days, you will start to find some correlation between the types of opportunities that you're most interested in and how they actually get tagged in our system. And so once you've kind of gone through that process a little bit and know that most of my opportunities are going to be categorized as translation services or aerial drones or legal software, something along those lines, then you can really use the primary tags as the main filter as far as looking at opportunities on a daily basis. But I would first start with the project name, and then maybe even the project description, and we'll see that in a column here in just a second, because like everybody may know, different agencies use different terminology. Some agencies are going to be very specific in the title of their project or their bid and exactly what they're looking for. Others might be a little bit more generic. So some of these project names might give you an indication that you're interested in it, but then you would want to go to the project description or either any available documents, and we have links for those as well to get more information to really determine, is this a true opportunity for your business and something that you want to pursue. The owner is the issuing agency. So there are going to be times where the product or services being bought is not actually going to be used by the city of or the county. It might go to a school district. A lot of times that might be called out within the documents or description. But the owner is the agency that actually issued that solicitation and where we capture the solicitation from. So a lot of times it's going to be the agency that is buying the product or procuring the service. But other times it could be for another agency. They just decided to go through a county or a city to go out for bid. And the reason I mention this is, let's say you are most interested in school districts, and really the bid opportunities that you respond to all get issued from school districts. There could be times that a school district will go through a city or a county to issue a solicitation versus them doing it on their own. Just depends on the product or service that they're buying at the time. So I wouldn't use the owner as a fail-safe on, I'm just looking for opportunities from counties, because the state might issue the solicitation and it be for a county, or a county or a city might issue the solicitation and actually be for a school or university. So that's really where I would lean more on the project name and the project description to figure out, is this a good opportunity for you? And then you can go through the rest of the information about the solicitation, like who the owner is. The owner address is the address of the agency that's issuing the procurement. Owner address 2 would just be if they have anything in addition to it, like suite, PO box, anything along those lines. Of course, we have the owner city, the owner state. So if you only work in a specific part of the country, owner state might be a good filtering mechanism for you, at least initially. And then you can just look at opportunities in the specific states that you're working and go through those. So you could take this list from 100 down to maybe 10, depending on what state you work in. And then you could just go through the project name and description after that. The owner's zip code. The submittal date is the date the agency has indicated when the solicitation is going to be due. We have a contact name. So we will pick up any contacts that are from the agency itself. And we will post those. And we even have suggested contacts, because not every solicitation we capture has a name or a contact listed on there. The only criteria that we require for a name, if there is a procurement that has just a name without a phone number or email, we won't capture that information. So it just has to be a name with either a combination of either a phone number or an email. One of the two, doesn't have to have both. But if it has a name and a phone number, or a name and an email, or both, then we will pick up that name and that contact and attach it to the specific solicitation.
I note there's a blank in that particular column. Does that happen regularly, or is there other contact information that might be available for, if you look down on row 10, for example, it doesn't have a contact name?
Yeah, I mean, so for about 30% of the agencies, we will have a suggested contact. So even if they don't attach a specific contact to an opportunity, we might suggest one just as kind of a foot in the door on someone that you can contact. There are other ones, and this is probably a federal opportunity. It doesn't happen a lot, but you will see some that either we don't have a suggested contact, or when we picked up the solicitation, they didn't list anybody on there. So we just didn't have anybody to put in there. That would be the only time there would be a blank, as if there was no suggested contact listed, or if we didn't have a suggested contact already in our system. There is a caveat. I have seen solicitations where they will list a main point of contact as a private contact, someone with like an engineering firm or an architecture firm or something along those lines. We do not field private contact, so it has to be associated with an agency. So for this one here, there might have been a contact listed, but not a phone number or email. There might have been a private contact listed, or we just didn't have a suggested one. But the vast majority of these will have a contact associated with them.
Okay, thanks.
So of course, contact phone, contact email that we're capturing from the solicitation as well. If they include a fax, I will include that. Some solicitations, more often than not, this will be at the federal level, where you might see more than one contact listed. If there is more than one contact and it's associated with the agency, we'll list those people as well. So you would have the second contact's email and second contact's phone. And we are reporting essentially what the agency is reporting. So if you look at project titles and you see a misspelling, that's because the agency had a misspelling in there. We're kind of reporting the news. We don't want to change anything that the agency put out, even though we know it might be misspelled and we know what it should be. But really our stance is we're going to report exactly what the agency does. So for like maximum value, you won't find this on the majority of solicitations simply because the agency hasn't attached a maximum value to it. But anytime that they do, we'll pull that maximum value and we'll provide it. And this is one thing that I should have asked about yesterday when I was going through the file. I believe this the maximum value is in thousands, but I will double check, and Kim, I will send you an update to confirm that. If there is a plan price associated with a solicitation or with documents, we will list that as well. GovWin will pick up any publicly available documents. So if you go to an agency's website and they have a solicitation there and then they list 3 documents, we'll capture all those. Some agencies won't allow a company like ours to pull the documents. One reason is that's how they keep track of bidders or plan holders, people that are interested in this project. So they, even though they might not charge for it, they might require that you register with the agency or call them directly to get the documents. But if they do charge an outside fee to that, those are documents that we do not pick up. Pre-bid would be any mandatory or non-mandatory pre-bid dates that the agency has attached to the particular solicitation. URL 1 and 2 and 3 is going to be any documents associated with that solicitation that we can actually capture that the agency has made available publicly. And these are direct links, so you should be able to open them up. You don't need a password or a username or anything like that. Once you click on that link, it should open up that specific document. And like I said, just keep in mind that for some of these, the agency will require that you as a business that's interested in the solicitation go to them directly to capture the documents. And so if that is a part of the process that the agency has required, very many times we will see that within the actual documents themselves, or the scope of the solicitation. So we can go through here. This some of these only have you can only see a couple lines, but if you open it up, it will take you to the larger description about that project. And this is all information that we're capturing directly from the agency. So if they put in a ton of detail and a ton of information as far as the scope of the project, we'll include that within our solicitation. If they only put a couple lines and just kind of leave it more towards the documents, then that's what we'll publish as well. So it's really coming directly from what the agencies are putting out. Like I mentioned before, if you went to an agency's website and found the solicitation there, we would have the same scope as what the agency has listed. The owner URL is the kind of general URL for the agency that's issuing the solicitation. So if you want to visit their webpage, you can, and this will be a link to that. The agency suggested contact is something we do on the state and local level. So the state and local opportunities that you see here, if there's no, that means that the contact that is listed is the one that was directly in the solicitation. We didn't have to suggest one. If you do see a yes here, that means we didn't capture a contact when we picked up the original solicitation, but we have suggested one within that agency. So that suggested contact is more meant kind of as a runway or a foot in the door. It might not be the exact person working on that particular project, but it's kind of our best case or a best suggestion. If we get into the location 1, this is where the project is actually taking place. If the agency lists out different locations, if it's they're buying supplies and it's going to go to different locations, or if they're doing construction and it's going to be happening in different locations, we will include that. The location 1 is more often than not going to include the city and state, and location 2, 3, 4, 5 will be additional counties that the solicitation is happening in. And we have it up to 10, just you probably won't very often see locations go beyond 5, but this is kind of a fail-safe, just making sure. If we think this is kind of cluttering up the file, we can always remove location 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, or how many that iCERT or the members decide is going to work best for them. But for now, this is how our feed was set up initially. And we kind of left all those locations in there just in case there is a solicitation that maybe goes to 10 locations, just to make sure that you have visibility into that. But like I said, if that's something that you want to kind of start removing to streamline this file a little bit more, it's always something that we can look at a later date. The project source URL is the URL where we actually source the project. So sometimes this will take you directly to the page that lists the solicitation. Other times it will take you to the agency's page that is kind of the cover page of all their solicitations. There are some agencies that will just have one page and list all their solicitations there, depending on the size of the agency. Others have kind of a search mechanism built in to their website. So that's where the project number that the agency issued might come in handy. If you click on this link and you get to kind of a cover page or a page that starts off at a search, I would just use the details that you find in this document, either the project title, the project number, something along those lines, enter it into that search box, and it should take you to that page specifically that has that project on there. So like I said, some of these will take you directly to the pages. Others, you might have to do 1 or 2 more steps after that to get to the exact page that has the project that's currently listed on the file. We do have agreements with some other services like ours that go out and capture bid notifications. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with DemandStar. DemandStar was a site that Onvia owned before we joined GovWin, that about 350 different agencies used to post procurement information. So they would post it directly on DemandStar. They might post it on their website as well. But they were essentially using DemandStar as a hub to post all their solicitations. There are other sites out there that agencies use kind of similar to that, BidSync being one of them, for solicitations that may be found on a kind of a, I guess you would say, a competitor's website. We have relationships with agencies like that where they'll come directly to us to post information. We let those sources capture our information as far as the project title and description, but we won't allow them to get the documents. It kind of works the same way. So there might be sites where you actually have to register or sign up to get the documents. But that would be anytime you see something like maybe a BidNet Direct or a BidSync or something along those lines. The vast majority of these are going to go to public websites and the agency's page that they posted on. It just really depends on where we were able to capture the information. If the agency had made it available on their website, more than likely we would have picked it up there. But if the only place they put it was on BidNet Direct, then that's where we capture the information. So that's where we'll direct you as far as the source URL. GovWinID is the internal ID that GovWin has attached to the solicitation. So the reason we kept this in here, probably not going to be super useful for the majority of members in your day-to-day interaction with this file. But if there was ever a question about a particular project, this is a number that we can use to look it up in our system pretty quickly. So it's just a reference point that we can use for any questions that come up to make sure that we can identify where that project is in our system and see if there was any issues or depending on what the question was, be able to review that further, not only on our platform, but once we capture the project and put it in through our system, be able to track it back to even before it was put on our platform when it was going through more the categorization and having our teams look at it to decide really what is the, not only what is kind of the scope of what they're looking for, but essentially what is the essence of the project? What are they really doing? The search group, we added this one. We did create a secondary search. Most of the opportunities and tags are all encompassed in the iCERT member projects. That's one search that we have set up. We did do another search for NextGen 911. When we were looking at opportunities around NextGen 911, we found that some of them were tagged outside of the primary tags that we had included in the iCERT member project search. So we didn't want to just add that tag because that would have eventually started adding a bunch of noise to this. So we created a keyword search. Keywords are the only ones that are generating results for the NextGen 911 projects. And we basically called out NextGen 911 a bunch of different ways that agencies could potentially call it out. So because of this, you might see some false hits. I think about a week ago, there was a mowing project that was included in the results. So looking at that doesn't really indicate that would it be anything that any iCERT members would be interested in. But when we looked at the description of the project, within that description, they had E911 built into it because I think they were doing mowing for one of their buildings, and they identified it as the E911 building. So that's why it came up as a hit, because we had E911 as one of the search terms in there. And so it's kind of it's a toss-up. It's, do you want to only receive opportunities that are very specific, or do you want to cast a wider net knowing that some noise might get through, but the return of that is you won't miss any projects that are really relevant. So if you wanted to, and you were super interested in NextGen 911, you could go through here and see were there any projects that came in today that were captured because they were keyed on the different terms that we had already built out for that search. This one in particular actually got caught by, the reason that it has iCERT member projects is both searches caught it. It got caught because there was a keyword or key phrase in there that matched our NextGen 911 project search, but it was also tagged specific to the iCERT member project. So hopefully we see any NextGen 911 that comes through is also attached to the iCERT member project search, that's really a good indication for us that we have the tags selected that are going to cover those types of projects. But if you ever see one that it's just strictly Next-Gen 911 and doesn't have this one also included in it, that just means it wasn't caught by the primary tags that are driving the iCERT member project search. It was captured through the keyword searches that we've set up that agencies were using either in the title or the project description. I guess going through just to kind of summarize as far as just getting started with this file and being able to search kind of efficiently, I would start with the project name, go through here pretty quickly and see if there's any projects that you might be interested in or that fit your business products and services that you're offering. I would kind of toggle back over to the primary tags to see how those were actually tagged, to see which tags keep coming up over and over again. And like I said, eventually you'll start seeing a strong correlation between the projects you're interested in and the tags that were used to bring those projects in. So you can start using the primary tags as a main filter when you're going through the file results. But I would also rely heavily on the project description at the beginning as well, because the search title is probably going to be more of a sentence, not going to go through a lot of detail. So the title is going to give you an indication this is something you might be interested in. The scope is probably going to give you either a stronger indication that it's something you're interested in, or it will disqualify that opportunity. And then you also have the ability to look through any of the documents that might be associated to get even more detail about it. So for a lot of these, you can probably do a kind of an interested, not interested decision pretty quickly by looking at the title, the scope, and the documents. And then if you wanted to follow up on this project even further, you can always go to the agency source URL and look it up directly with that agency. I will say that this file is delivering new opportunities that we're capturing on a daily basis. So if you see a project that you're interested in and want to continue following that project to see if any additional pieces of information come out, if they do an amendment, if they change the date that the project is due, I would use the source URL and the issuing agency and kind of bookmark that and just a lot of agencies are going to require that you kind of register with the agency or start submitting information related to the bid. So they'll keep you on that list and keep you up to date. But if there's something you're really interested in, I would keep the source URL and maybe check back every day or two to see if they've updated certain things. Of course, we could put updates in this file, Kim, if you wanted to do that, or if members wanted to do that. The one thing I would caution about that is the file that came through today was about 100 projects. If we put all the various updates that might happen, we could potentially take the results from 100 to 500 pretty easily by updating past procurement. So that's why we haven't included at the kind of the onset, is to make sure this is as streamlined and efficient for you to use on a daily basis. So that's just one bit of caution that I would throw out is if you're interested in a project, make sure you're checking back with the agency to see if there's any updates to that solicitation or any additional information the agency might have released after the initial bid letting that we have captured. So really, that's kind of what I wanted to make sure that we ran through today is really what the file is showing, the different data pieces that are included in there. Kim, did you have any questions that came through as I was kind of going through the file that you want to go over?
No additional questions. We'll pause here for a minute and let somebody either type one in, or because we don't have a giant crowd, if somebody wants to just ask their question, we
Actually,
could do that.
Kim, if this is Paul, if I may, I'd like to share a a little shortcut I use to help me filter through results when I do get this file.
Yeah, that'd be great, Paul.
So Jason, I'm going to hit request control. I don't know if it will work, but if you wouldn't mind allowing me for just a moment to look at the sheet. Okay.
Yep, there you go.
We're going to see if this works. What I do is I go to the spreadsheet and I highlight the whole spreadsheet by clicking in the top corner, and I just make the columns a little smaller for initial use. And then I also scroll over to the beginning. So let me just go back to the beginning of the file. So now I've scrolled everything, so it's pretty much not that long. And then I highlight the first row, and I go over to where it says filter, and I just do filter. Now what I can do is, and I'll just use an example here. I'll just go here and I'll do, under search results, it'll be a text filter. And all I'll do here is I'll just type in a word now. I'll just do cloud. Say I want to see everything that's got cloud associated with it. Well, in that case, it filters to just one, and that's all I have to look at. So now it no longer matters to me how it's sorted. Now, I may, in fact, decide I want to go through this, and this is a nice way to summarize what's there. And I may know I want to see a few of these. So in that case, I'll unselect all, and then I'll just select the 2 or 3 that I might really want to just see. In this case, I'll just do those 3, and then there they are. The same filter will now work on every column. So as Jason was suggesting, going over to the project name, conceivably it may not, you could have something here where I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Go to the project name. Here I'll just type in the word cloud as well. Of course, I'll have no idea if this will work, but let's try. And sure enough, it found the one with the word cloud in the project name. So it's just a shortcut as this list does grow, or if this list is more than a couple of pages, for you to figure out more immediately what's appropriate for your team. And the reason why I make the columns small is, let me just use another, I'm going to just get rid of the word cloud here for a second. I'll just give you one more example why this is important. So let's just go here to a primary tag, and I want to look for the word computer. Let's just hope that computer shows up in a lot of things. Okay, sure does. So I made it small so that I have an easier time just scrolling over. And in this case, I'll go over and I'll look at project names might be important to me and say, you know what? I don't have anything to do with healthcare, so I'm going to just skip those. But this one might be interesting to me. So it's a way to take a quick look at a project name and an owner in a very quick way with a very shorter subset view of this data. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That's actually a great suggestion, and something that you could also do with the project description if you want to filter those down and add a keyword there. That could be a filtering mechanism as well too. But I know Paul has used this file for a little bit, so he probably has a pretty good indication of the primary tags that he's most interested in. So that's why I was suggesting, if this is something you're just kind of getting used to, is start seeing if there's a correlation between once you look at the project name and description and how they're tagged. Once you get that correlation and you know that the vast majority are going to be tagged either this, or this, you can use this filtering function that Paul just kind of demonstrated to quickly remove all the other tags and just select the ones that you're most interested in. So you can quickly get to a point where even though there might be 200 opportunities on this file, you're able to filter down to just the 10 that are most relevant to you, and just look through those pretty quickly to decide if it's something you want to follow up on or not.
I think a couple of the points you made are worth reiterating. One is that certainly people want to find new opportunities and be able to aggressively pursue those through this information. It's great to be able to validate other marketing sources. I thought it's something I hadn't really focused on, but one that you mentioned a while back, Jason, was using this over time to build your own network of influence and registrations so that you are registered and visible to target organizations going forward. And that could last for a long time, years, that sort of thing. So there are lots of ways to use this information and this process in a way that benefits you. Not just, again, the direct opportunities are great, and we hope people find a lot of them and bid on them and win them. But there are lots of other ways to leverage this information as well. And of course, both you and Paul mentioned this, as you get a little more familiar with it after a couple of weeks, you get a sense and a feeling about it, and pretty soon you're capturing information and sorting it and recognizing things with experience that you might not have recognized before, because you're getting it presented this way and you can manipulate the information. I also want to mention that I send this out first thing in the morning. I'm trying to get my automated system to work and I'm having a little trouble, but we'll get that figured out so that this comes out early in the morning of the day after we receive the file. And if for any reason anybody has some kind of a problem, something gums up, their security prevents them from getting the file, all they have to do is let me know, and I do archive them and be able to send it forward. Or if somebody's on vacation and then loses it, whatever, just contact me and I'll get you the information. So make sure that
I want to expand on, I think that was a good point that you brought up on different ways to be able to use the file. If you start seeing agencies come up that are in your territory that maybe you've never worked with before, but they are putting solicitations out that you're interested in, don't just leave it at the direct opportunities, because agencies buy a lot of stuff indirectly where they don't necessarily have to go through a bid or an RFP, especially when you get into times like this where you're kind of getting into emergency type situations. If they can justify a reason where they don't have to go out to bid, the first thing they're going to do is go to their vendor list and different vendors that have registered with them or that they've worked with before. And instead of just going through and trying to register with tens of thousands of agencies that are out there, you can really use this as a way to pinpoint which agencies you would be most interested in working with based on what they're actually buying and procuring products and services that you provide, and just spend the time registering with those to make sure that you're taking advantage of any informal purchasing opportunities or something that they do directly, as opposed to going through a formal bid process.
Kim, quick question. This is Rob Farmer. Is this something that I can add additional names to the email in the morning, a couple different names from our organization, so that other people are getting it, not just me? Or is it easier just for me to forward it through?
No, I'm glad you asked that, Rob. As long as it's not a million, if you want to add a couple, I'm happy to add them to the list. The list is manageable enough that we could certainly do that. And that kind of dovetails in with vacations or travel or offices. I'm happy to accommodate that. So if you send me a couple of extra names, I'll add them on there.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
So like I said, I mean, if you have any suggestions for Kim, or just wondering, hey, am I covered in this? Is what I'm looking for actually getting captured? Feel free to send him, and kind of descriptions work best rather than putting specific keywords down. Just kind of give a brief overview of the types of products and services that you provide. Real life bid examples are great to use because it's something I can look up directly in our system and see this is exactly how we tag it. So if you have any examples that you want to include in that, as far as past procurements that you've responded to. But of course, in the future, if you ever find a project, one of your partners sends it to you, or if you're just on an agency's website or something like that, and you come across it and didn't see it come through in this file, then send that over to Kim, and he'll forward it over to me, and I can look it up that day. And if it is getting classified the way that we may not have thought, and we want to include that criteria in the search results, I can add them that day. So any new opportunities that get categorized the same way start getting delivered in the file the very next morning.
Okay. Any last minute questions from anyone? All right. Well, certainly Jason and Paul, thank you, and everybody for attending. Thank you very much. As I said, this has been recorded, and we'll post it. I'll put it in the newsletter, member newsletter, so that folks will have access to the link for others in their organization. And of course, if you review and have questions at any time, reach out and we will respond immediately. Your success is our success. So thank you all very, very much. And everyone, stay safe and have a great Thursday.